Hi, this is the Phantom Minis YouTube channel. My name's Adam, and I'm going to be talking today about the X-Wing miniatures game. I wanted to really do a back to basics or starter edition video for people thinking about playing the game for the first time. I wanted to run through some of the really simple features of the game and how it works and what you need to play. So to kick us off, I thought we'd talk about components. What you need to play with the game is a 3-foot by 3-foot playing area. You can use a mat in that size or a table with 3-foot by 3-foot marked out. That's your playing area. On that playing area you're going to need a few different components. On the actual space, the mat we'll call it, you're going to need ships. Ships come from 7 different factions, and the game currently plays with a 3-ship minimum and 8-ship maximum, which we'll get into. The 7 different factions are all taken from the Star Wars universe, and we'll get into that later. So, X-Wing 2.5. You won't find in store any specific box with this moniker on it at the moment. X-Wing 2nd edition is the current box that you can purchase from your friendly local gaming store, and that will get you into the game. That comes with an X-Wing and 2 TIE fighters. It comes with some components that are really helpful. All components are available separately, however the basic starter set of the game is really useful to get everything you need in one place. Now the rule set inside that box is not the most up-to-date rule set. All additional rules are free and available on AMG's website, which we'll put links to in the description. There is a rules reference that clarifies all rules for the game. So there's no additional expenditure. There are no separate books like in Games Workshop products where you need to buy a codex for your army. That doesn't happen in X-Wing Miniatures game. All the rules are free and the actual pilots come with their own additional information. So we've talked about having a play space of 3-foot by 3-foot. What do we put on that? So the 3 to 8 ships that you pick for your faction. You also need some other items on the play space. That would be asteroids or obstacles. Obstacles are things to move around. So the ships are using them to dodge around. They're in the play space area for the ships. These do come as a component in the base box. You're also going to need some dice. They're available in the box. Special dice. There are red and green. So the red dice are your attack dice, and the green dice are your defense dice. And when you make an attack, you'll be using red dice, and when you make a defensive roll, you'll be using green dice. What you also need, and what's really special about the X-Wing Miniatures game, is some movement templates. Now, each ship, when it's not attached to my whiteboard, comes with its own base. So there's a plastic peg that holds the ship up, so you can look at it on the game board, and a plastic base at the bottom. And on that plastic base there is a piece of cardboard which denotes which pilot is currently in that ship. So for example here we have an A-Wing, we have a Y-Wing, and we have a U-Wing, and they could all have different pilots, either generic pilots with no names or pilots named from the Star Wars universe. And they'll be on the base. The base also gives other useful information about the game and how the pilots play. So we've got some components now. We've got the ships, we've got some dice, we've got some obstacles, and we've got some movement templates. What else do we need to play the game? Cards. So as we mentioned previously, it's not a codex based game. You do not have a book that you read from as you play the game, or you're not writing anything down on paper. Everything is done with cards. So you'll have your pilot card and then separately upgrade cards for that pilot. In the 2.5 edition of the game, which is the most recent, they've changed the way that you work out how a pilot is equipped. So previously we had a certain number of points, like many games, that you could spend on anything inside your faction or your force. Now we use 20 points. So 20 is the number of points you can spend on pilots. These are findable on PDFs, but more usefully there are 2 major places that players go to. There is a website called YASB, that's Y-A-S and then the B for Bravo, and it's the 2nd edition or 2.5, and that has all pilots currently listed and how many points they cost. There is also Launch Bay Next, which is an application available on smartphones, which uses an app and creates all of the factions for you, and you can select pilots inside your favourite faction and create a list up to that magic 20 points. Inside those pilots you have something called loadout. What is loadout? Loadout is the new mechanic inside the game. Previously, we were spending our larger pool of points on minutiae such as upgrade cards. Now we have a loadout for every single separate pilot, which is why it's useful to use the app or the website previously mentioned, so that you can find out quickly how many loadout points every pilot you get in your faction or the force that you've picked. So you pick the pilot, and the number of loadout points allow you to apply upgrade cards to that pilot. So let's say you're taking the Y-Wing and you want to give the Y-Wing some bombs. That Y-Wing pilot will have a certain number of points allowed for spending on all of their upgrades, which includes bombs, which are called devices in the game. And then you just apply those on the builder. You can do this on pen and paper, but it's a lot easier to use one of the freely available builders, as there's no cost implied. So, what have we got now? We've got our cards by the table. Now, where do we get these, you might be saying? Adam, I don't know where to get cards from. So, every single ship that's currently available for the game are in black boxes and available from friendly local gaming stores and from the internet, Amazon and the like. Inside the box for a ship, let's say the Y-Wing again, you will also receive a number of pilot cards for that ship. You'll also receive upgrade cards for that ship. You'll also receive cardboard tokens to go on the base so that you can assign the specific pilot card that you have to the actual ship, and then it matches. So you've got the card on your side of the table, and the ship has also got the pilot name on it as well. Let's go back. So, who is currently in charge? AMG, they do the rules reference, and it's all free. You need a 3x3 play space, 3 foot by 3 foot. You need ships and bases. You need to use dials. Now, we haven't mentioned dials. Dials do come in the packs. So if you've bought a ship pack, such as the Y-Wing, and you want to make use of it, it'll come with a dial. How does that work? So when you're in the phase where you're going to be showing your opponent what you have chosen as your maneuver, which is what your maneuver templates do, you will have assigned it on a dial in the planning phase. So during the planning phase, both players are using the dials that they have for the ships that they have. You get one dial for every ship, and assign the maneuver that that ship will do this turn. Then you work your way through in secret, assigning all of these, placing them face down so your opponent can't see what your ships are doing and you can't see what their ships are doing. And then that is where the enjoyment of X-Wing comes from, is by revealing those maneuvers in a set order from the least skilled pilot to the most skilled pilot, and then they carry out those maneuvers. So if a ship wanted to fly straight, you'd assign a straight maneuver on the dial in secret, hide it, but keep it on the table, but unseen by your opponent as to what you've chosen. And then when that ship's turn comes, you'll then reveal that dial by turning it over, and you'll see the straight maneuver. It will fly that line or that lane, and then the rest of the game will happen. That is a pretty quick roundup on where we are at the moment with X-Wing 2.5. If you want to get into it today, what you need to get hold of. You need to pick a faction. So the current factions are Rebels, Imperials, Scum, Republic, Separatist, Resistance and First Order. 7 different factions. The ships that are available for all of the factions are currently split across a multitude of different purchasing options. There was a first edition of the game, which is currently out of print, and some of those ships have not come back into print for the second edition of the game. For the second edition of the game, they both reprinted a number of the older ships and printed new ships. They did, however, not get round to all of the first edition ships. So while they are usable in the second edition of the game with something called a conversion kit, they're not playable in the basic version of the game, which is called Standard. This is another aspect of the game and where it starts to get more complicated. Standard is the preferred way of playing the game at a tournament setting. However, there's also Extended, where you can play with any of the ships available in the game from any of the kits that you've got. And then there are free format games as well, so Kitchen Table, where you just do as you please. There is a banned list, which AMG, the developer of the game, is cultivating. The banned list is a new idea that's only started in the past 6 months. Previously, X-Wing worked to a point system printed on the cards, then it moved to a point system printed on PDFs, and now it has a point system on PDFs, and AMG have brought in a banned list, so that certain cards are considered too powerful for the game, and in standard and or extended versions of the game are not allowable to be played. If you're playing at home with your friends, this doesn't matter. However, if you want to play in a tournament setting, it's worth checking with the organiser which version of the game that you'll be playing. Generally, standard is preferred. There we are. So you might say to me, Adam, Phantom Minis has done an okay job there. I've got a basic idea of how to start playing this game. But why is it called X-Wing 2.5? This is because during COVID, second edition of the game, which was received very well and was doing an incredible job, was taken over by a company called AMG. This was an internal decision. Nobody at Asmodee, the level of the game being owned, changed hands. It was just passed from one developer to another developer. AMG are now the owners and have put in place their 2.5 edition. They also make a game called Marvel Crisis Protocol. They've also taken on ownership of Star Wars Legion and Star Wars Armada. They've started making changes to all of their Star Wars games, and this is where we are at the moment with X-Wing. There is a little bit of disgruntlement across the community, which you may find if you engage in Reddit, Facebook, Discord servers and the like. So worth keeping an eye out for that. However, keeping it nice and simple, if you just want to play the game with your friends, pick 2 factions, buy some ships, have a starter set so that you've got the movement templates and some dice, and you're good to go. All of those components are freely available to purchase separately, as I said, and it's always worth looking on eBay and other second-hand stores for other ways to get components. Thank you very much. Please subscribe for more content.